So good evening, and thank you for coming to week 5 event for Oxford Energy Strategy. Today, we are really pleased to have welcome James Doyle to this event today. James is the head of operations at Octopus Energy and one of his first team members. Octopus Energy was founded in 2015 and is now one of the major renewable energy suppliers in the UK, observing rapid growth and large flows of funding, including the Alcor Sustainable Investment Fund. And so in this talk, James will be talking about Octopus Energy's proposition and how they're seeking to transform the energy system on a global scale. He'll talk about the use of technology to drive decarbonisation and equally how the people-focused culture is critical to success. So over to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and if there's any questions, please feel free to ask them at the very end or post them if you're online, post them on the chat. I will take them at the end.
Brilliant. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to keep this quite informal. So we're going to cover a broad outline of what we do at Octopus, and I'll talk in a bit more detail about what I do as well. But I really want to make sure that it works for you as well. So questions at the end are wonderful. Questions in the middle are fantastic too. If there's something that is of real interest to you, just put up your hand, interrupt me. I want it to be a two-way conversation. I don't want to preach from a pulpit here. Okay? We're an informal organization, and I want to bring that informality here as well. Is that okay? Before I start, I'd love to learn a small bit about you. So it's helpful for me when I'm talking about what I do to understand who you are as the audience. So could I have maybe two people to offer a little bit about what you study, what you do, and across the energy stock, what drives success, what matters to you? That would be really helpful if I could have two volunteers. Yes.
I'm Chloe.
Nice to meet you,
I'm
Chloe.
in the Masters of Energy Systems here. So Chris and I are actually in the Masters together. So it's through the engineering faculty. For me, what matters most, I think, is getting to net zero as fast as possible, and how we do that in a commercially viable way.
Awesome. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
So I think we're in the same building.
Yeah.
So I'm in the Energy and Power Group, which is also in engineering, in the same building with the master group. So I'm doing a PhD on residential energy flexibility coordination. So I use some of Octopus's data sets in my research. I'm looking at how to coordinate electric vehicle charging and smart heating, so that we can help integrate renewables in a way that protects people's privacy and that is fair for everyone.
Awesome. That's so interesting. Great. Thank you. What it is that we'll cover. I've been in the organization for 6 years. I've effectively grown up within it. And I hope over the course of the next 45 minutes to be able to talk to you about the group, my journey within the organization, how it's evolved, our model, our operating model that is quite distinct, our growth to 3 million plus customers in the UK retail business, our growth to a team worldwide of 2,300, 24 million customers globally contracted onto our platform. Not all migrated there just yet, but in the process. Our movement to being valued most recently at $4.6 billion. You referenced Al Gore. It was that round of funding. And then the one that is probably biggest for me in my role is our culture. What it is, why it's important, and how it contributes to the success of our people across the organization. And then last but not least, how we scale, and how what we've built in the UK is being replicated across the world as well. So, this is me. I am a 29-year-old from rural Ireland. I grew up in Ireland. I had a problem listening. I didn't like to listen to others. I had many opinions. I was really politically active. I went to uni in Dublin, studied business and political science, and I worked all of the while whilst I was studying in customer-facing roles, so in bars, in restaurants, in cafes, and I thought that my experience there made me the best at dealing with people. And I moved to London, to the UK in 2016. Got a job in recruitment, in energy recruitment. That didn't last very long. I didn't enjoy it. There were too many rules. It was too restrictive. And I didn't feel that I could truly be myself. And shortly after that, I came across Octopus. There were 15 people in the organization at the time. We had a few hundred customers. And I didn't really join because I wanted to be part of that, because the offering was no different to what some other suppliers at the time were offering. And by others, I'm talking about Bulb, I'm talking about Ovo, I'm talking about So Energy, etc. Octopus at that time didn't really have anything that was different. But I wanted to get out of my role, and Octopus was offering, so I joined. And I've learned an incredible amount over my time there, which is almost 6 years. And I feel that I've grown up within the organization. It's the only business that I truly know, and it's a business where I've felt that I can truly be free, and bring a deep amount of ownership, autonomy to the work I do there as well. So that's a little bit about me, and now what it is that I do. So, as head of operations in Octopus, or any role in Octopus, it's not reflective of what the same role would look like or be tasked with in a traditional organization. We do not centralize functions. So within operations, it's everybody that deals with customers on the front line and solves all of the problems behind it. We'll come to the operating model later on in the talk, where I'll be able to piece that together in a bit more detail. But for me, in my role, I look after recruitment. So this year, I'm tasked with making sure that we hire 1,200 people into our organization in the UK, and 500 people into some of our new markets globally as well. And within that, it's that we're creating a process that is reflective of our organization, one that is open, fluid, unbiased, and not making assumptions or judgments about people before we meet them. And we've done an awful lot of work to try and unpick some of the challenges and inconsistencies in the process, and learn how other organizations were doing it effectively. So in terms of recruitment, 1,200 people in the UK this year in order to sustain our growth. The other thing that I'm responsible for is leadership development. At Octopus, we don't like to go to the rest of industry to bring in leaders. It does happen sometimes because they've got a fairly unique and specific skill set that is of value to us, and we therefore seek it out. But my role is to make sure that we're developing leadership talent at speed to keep up with the scale of the growth of the business. And so in terms of numbers, one of the things that this year I need to do is to get 50 people who work in frontline operations ready to move into leadership. And not just in the UK, but leadership across the world as well. Because what we've built in the UK is the model that we're trying to help some of the new markets replicate, and we want the talent within the UK to move globally as well. So we've created a number of different programs to accelerate talent, and not just do management 101 style like we see in the incumbents, like we see in traditional organizations. Instead, to help create the space where leaders can be enabled to move past the barriers or limitations that may be in the way of them ultimately succeeding, and to bring about success for their team as well. So that's the other thing. Space, I look after our physical office space, so making sure that we have enough of it, making sure that it is environmentally friendly, making sure that we're not making a negative impact in the communities in which we operate. So far this year, I've made deals for 20,000 square foot just in the UK, and that is to house the growth that we will have over the year ahead. But most importantly, it's to create space that our team feel proud of and that they feel ownership in terms of having created and built and sustained as well. So that's one other of my responsibilities. The next one is global ops growth. So we are active in different ways in different markets. We've bought a small supplier in Germany, a retail supplier, and we're migrating those customers, rebranding it as Octopus. The same we've done in France. That happened a few short weeks ago. The same we've done in Italy, as well as Spain. We've entered the market in Texas by buying a small supplier there. And hopefully that will give us the foundation to go across the rest of the United States. In New Zealand, we've built operations, not yet to enter the retail market, instead to support the global team and do so from a different time zone. In Australia, we're building operations so that we can support our clients. I'll come to who our clients are and how that works in a few moments. And in Japan, we're building operations in partnership with Tokyo Gas, one of the incumbents there, so that Octopus Energy Japan can take off and scale at growth. And my job is to make sure that we are helping those teams to grow and to build, giving them the space to have their own freedom, so that any of the things that matter to them and are culturally specific to their region are factored in and matter, but that the foundations that have built their organization are part of their world as well. That's what I mean by global ops growth. The next is onboarding, which is effectively bringing in all of these people and making sure that they have a really good, positive experience. Making sure that the experience they have is one that makes them feel valued, and from day one makes them feel like they're taking ownership for the work that they do. L&D is a big part as well. So that's learning and development and making sure that when one moves past the onboarding stage, they're gaining as much knowledge, as much growth for themselves, and able to contribute effectively to the organization. And customer happiness is critical. For us, everybody across the organization, no matter where they are, when they think about making decisions, the first thing that comes to the fore of their thought process is how does this impact the customer? And that is that's from the top down. Our CEO, Greg Jackson, probably spends 10% of his day every day speaking directly to customers. He uses Twitter as one of the biggest platforms for doing so, but he's also on the phone to customers. He's also engaging with them by email, and he leads from the front on that. So my job as a leader is to make sure that I'm engaged and that I know what's going on with customers. And it keeps people across our organization grounded and makes sure that when we're making decisions around new tariffs, new products, new services, we're doing so having had real life conversations with real life people who it's going to impact. And a lot of organizations purport to do this, and a lot of organizations speak about doing it. And I think that from my time with Octopus, having spent a bit of time in the industry talking and engaging with our competitors, I don't think any of them do it to the same level of us. And I say that as humbly as possible as well. And the other one that I've kind of touched on at the start is our culture. It's fairly unique. It drives autonomy, freedom for individuals, and it is one whereby we try to remove bureaucracy, remove strict processes, and remove rules that get in the way of people achieving the best for themselves, and that also get in the way of them being able to be themselves in the workplace, which is a really critical part for us. So those are some of my responsibilities. I've joined 5.5 years ago. I don't tend to stick around that very much for very long, and so for me this is very unusual. But I'm just going to talk for a moment about why I'm still here and some of the things that are important in that regard. So the first is what I've mentioned about customers. We practice what we preach, and we've got a lot of backing in terms of evidence to support what we do. In the last few days, we've been recommended by Which for the 5th year in a row as their supplier of choice. We operate the top brands on Trustpilot, which include Octopus, M&S Energy, Effect Energy, Co-op Energy, and customer happiness is an important thing that again influences everything. We won New Switch Supplier of the Year in 2021, and this all is evidence of how the customer is core to what we do. The other reason I'm still here is because of the scale of what we're doing and the growth within that and the opportunity that has created. We've gone from 15 people to over 2,000 in just a few short years. We've grown the fastest in terms of retail customers in the UK over that same period of time. And there's a huge level of ambition to transform the energy system and do so at speed, one that I don't believe is replicated across the rest of the industry. The other reason is from a people perspective. And my role as a leader is to enable the success of those around me and to make sure that we do not churn out cuboids and that we churn out as an organization people who are very unique, very different, very creative and able to be themselves. And my role is to coach that and to enable others to do the same as well. But then most importantly, as you'll know, we're in the midst of a climate emergency. The energy system, particularly from a retail perspective, plays a significant part within that. And we know that our mission is to show what's possible to help turn the tide on that. And it's something that is incredibly important to me and to everybody across our organization. And it's something that there's a major focus on. So, what is it that we actually do? And I think this this image gives a really good sense as to how it all fits together across the Octopus Energy Group. So my big space is the retail business and our customer growth there, and that was the first thing that we set up to do, or that we were set up to do. And from there, we built our platform Kraken, which enables a one-stop shop in terms of looking after the customer and managing their data and running products as well. And so the retail growth supported the growth and the innovation across Kraken. It drove lower costs. We're the most cost-effective operation in the industry, and because we use a single platform that we built ourselves, that we control ourselves, and we're also very lean in terms of how we're structured as well. And that has led to licensing deals from our competitors, because they want to buy our technology, they want to buy and transform their operating models, which also has brought along lower prices. Those licensing deals generate our biggest amount of revenue and profit, which in turn is reinvested back into the retail customer growth, and has enabled us to grow not just in the UK, but to enter markets across the world as well. So that's the bigger picture overview of what it is that we do. And Kraken Technologies is at the heart of it. So this is one of the businesses that we have built across the group, which is our tech function. And the Octopus Retail Group, or the Octopus Retail business, now acts as a client of Kraken Technologies. So they have other clients, which we'll come to in a moment. We're just one of theirs. And what they're doing is building a platform, improving the platform. It's a billing platform for customers, and it's a single database. It's a single place where the customer's account is managed, and it is the single point where the customer can access their data and control an increasing amount of things around their energy ecosystem. So that is Kraken, and here are some of the clients that have licensed the platform and our model that goes along with it. Origin, one of the incumbents in Australia, Nectar, a new entrant in New South Wales in Australia. EDF have recently signed a deal to transfer their customer base over to us, which will begin later this year. We simply didn't have the resource to begin it at the time of the deal. Eon Next are currently our biggest client. They're an amalgamation of Npower and Eon, and Good Energy are there too. I suppose the biggest thing that you'll notice is many of those are our competitors in the retail space, and we're using the platform to make sure that it's not just our customers that can benefit from really good service, lower prices, and access and empowerment to their data, but it's our competitors as well, and that's the model that we're looking at globally too. So here's a bit more as to how we envisage the whole ecosystem to fit together, and we've done a lot of work to get to this point, and to move increasingly towards it. We've recently bought our sister business, Octopus Generation, who have the most amount of solar assets across Europe. They've got a huge number of wind assets too, and integrating them into our group is a key component to enabling Kraken to continue to improve. The electric vehicle wing of our business is another key component, and using Kraken as the platform for our customers to access those products is important as well. And the biggest thing that's on our agenda right now is the move away from gas boilers and towards heat pumps, which is restricted by many different things at the moment, but which we're using Kraken as the means to drive the costs to be lower, and that as a product to be much more accessible. So if you think about an Octopus Energy customer engaging with any of our people, they'll be able to, on our platform, talk about an electric vehicle and a tariff that works for that vehicle. They can talk about a heat pump and ensuring that their consumption and understanding consumption is matching the need and the demand for that, and also is just looking at different ways to decentralize generation and empower communities to take a bit more control as well. So
yeah, question that Durban. I see you have grid backup. So is the Kraken software just to like decentralized billing for people to access the data, or does it also help people run their like energy management systems and like provide services to the grid as well, like do them on site response as well, or? So
there's no realized live product in that space that's accessible to customers. There's a lot of trialing for that going on as well. And on the commercial side of things, we have our entity called Kraken Flex, which is looking at large scale demand side response, and using the Kraken platform to bring.
So is that running or is that a project?
It's just a project. Yeah.
So what do you mean by grid backup here then? Kraken grid backup.
Yeah. So in terms of Kraken Flex, which is that element of it, to have battery storage on a large scale, and also on a domestic scale, to act as grid backup, so that we're much less reliant on a centralized grid. And is that?
Yeah, that answers it. So then there will be Kraken Flex, but that's not yet running, but you're planning on running something that can help.
Correct.
Services to the grid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all aimed towards decarbonisation. The first element of that is to make sure that we've got actively engaged customers, and that means people who understand what we will have hopefully removed the complexity around. So people who understand their smart meter, who are unafraid of trying different things out with it, and who feel that they've been listened to when they engage with us. Renewable generation comes through our sister company, energy services, which is a big element that we're growing at the moment. We touched on flexibility, but we've recently established a heat pump research and development center in Slough, so that we're using that as our services. We're doing meter installations as our services, and we're doing EV battery installation and home wall installation as well as a service. So one-stop shop for services. And if we look at how Octopus compares to some of the incumbents, British Gas, for instance, that organisation has an incredibly large services division, one that really delivers decent outcomes for their customers. And we're scaling that side of the business by hiring hundreds of engineers across the country and getting those teams out and ready. And we're trying to tap into the gas boiler engineer market, which is really it's proving challenging for us, and bring them on board to help us with heat pumps as well. The next element of that is obviously the tech that enables of it, and then the most important part, which drives success there, is people and culture. So the license for emission, we speak a lot about outrageously good service across the organisation, and this is what we use as our starting point to get better from. So if we compare how we're doing across some of our competitors, a lot of people will be disappointed to no longer be our customers, and we're comparing quite positively to other organizations such as Slack. But we know that we've got a lot more to do to not just keep our current customers happy, but to make sure that as we innovate and roll out new products, that they're accessible, people can understand them, and they can talk to us when things go wrong. So for us, service being at the level of outrageously good is critical, and something we're very, very focused on. Growth. Here's just a small idea of our growth, which is almost a year out of date, but just gives a sense as to the customers that have been licensed onto our platform through the Octopus retail business and through Kraken. And here's some of the brands that exist within our organization or that we've partnered with as well. So Marks & Spencer's Energy was the first big one when M&S came to us and agreed to move the operations for M&S Energy away from SSE and to us and onto our platform. Effect Energy came through an acquisition. London Power being a partnership with the Mayor of London. Our Tesla partnership, our Monzo partnership in terms of customer acquisition. The Arsenal partnership being the first Premier League club to go green. And Cooperative Energy, which still exists as a brand, but one that we took over a number of years ago. So that gives a sense as to how we have scaled. And one of the things that's important in our model is that we're not putting all our eggs in one basket in terms of acquiring customers through one channel. We're doing so via a number of different partnerships, a number of different large-scale acquisitions. And organically, we are acquiring customers direct, but through price comparison websites, via a growing field team, so field sales, brand ambassadors out on the streets, and a number of other things too. And that means that we've got a much healthier, much more diverse customer base, which exposes us less to some of the challenges that are going on in the market as well. So that's a bit about our growth, and this gives a sense as to where we sit according to complaints. I don't know how that slide made it on there. That's not what it's supposed to be. Lowest complaints in the industry. Yeah, this is how we compare in terms of complaints. Sorry. Here's another census to the growth. Again, the retail business. So when I'm talking about the operations, going from 3 million or 300,000 up to 3 million. This peak towards the end happened when Avro went into the SOLR process, and I'll come to talk about that as well. That's still something we're working through. It is something we've done relatively effectively, but we were lucky and happy to have got the biggest solar as opposed to many smaller solars, because they're complex and not easy. But that's just a sense of the growth. this was the slide that I wanted to show you, which shows our market share. And as of Q3 last year, we sat at 8.4%. Today, it's roughly at around 10%. Ofgem haven't yet released those figures. And we see the change across the market and even more change since that quarter. So, the current market, right? We're in the midst of a crisis, and it has come about for many different reasons. Ofgem has spoken about its role and its responsibility in terms of creating a market that has meant that some suppliers fail, others succeed. We've taken on almost 600,000 customers from Avro. That process began in September, and I spent a lot of time in Hinckley with the administrators and with the team there to begin that migration. Their business was actually really quite healthy. They had run a really lean operation. They had looked after their customers relatively well when we compare it to how other customers were looked after, and their platform was decent. They just took a big risk in terms of how they hedged and bought their energy, and that risk didn't pay off for them. But as suppliers that have gone bust compare, Avro were absolutely not amongst the worst of them. Recently, we've completed that migration, and right now we're looking at how we move those customers across our business and make sure that they're looked after in the same way that Octopus customers are as well. And then the big thing that I see on a day-to-day basis from speaking to customers is fuel poverty is at record levels, and it's no doubt only going to get worse. And that is because of a whole myriad of factors. But one of the biggest being all of the support, all of the policies that are put in place. And some of them are helpful. And if we look at the price cap, if that didn't exist, we'd be in a much worse position. But it's still not helpful enough for those that most need it. Price cap announcements 2 weeks ago is something that hit our business quite significantly. Again, in terms of customer contact, customer fear, customer panic, and it's something that we're working around at the moment. So that's the state of the current market. And now I'm just going to talk about operations and our model and what makes it different. So, what are our goals and objectives? And these are pertinent right now. I spoke about empowering customers to access their data, to take control of their energy, and that's a significant one across the organization. But making sure that they're happy and they're loyal as well, and they're part of the brand that they really love. Within our organization, it's empowering agile teams that manage those customers to deliver awesome service and to do so at scale as well. And then one that is really important right now is to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to support customers through the crisis. As an organization, we're never going to cut anybody off. We'll always find ways to help. We may not be able to help enough, and we've put in place funds that go beyond some of the schemes that are already in place to make sure that we're doing what we can to look after them. But the next few months are going to be increasingly difficult, and we don't know where some of those situations and scenarios are going to be, come summertime as well. But for us, across operations, those are the things that are most important. Yes.
On that point, how has the growth of Octopus and sort of operations, how has that responded to rising oil prices or supply chain shortages for renewable energy development?
Yeah, so we've the crisis at the moment has hit us in many different ways. But if we compare to other organisations, we've actually dealt with it quite well, and the team have responded really well to it. And that's because some of the things that are very core to who we are and what we do actually got a light shone on them a lot more internally across the organisation. You mentioned generation in your question, right? We are continuing to unlock investment in generation. Our focus is as much on community generation and engaging small scale generation across the country as it is on larger stuff. we've got money through investment with the pension fund in Canada or Al Gore's group last year as well, that we're isolating. We're not using to fund the crisis, but we're using to drive greater generation. But the policies that are in place are not helpful enough to make sure that the renewable generation that is needed moves at the scale that is needed in order to alleviate the reliance, the need on gas, on oil, and fossil fuels. So we're campaigning to try and get that changed. We're campaigning with some degree of effect because of how we look after our customers. It gives us a voice at the table. You know, we've had the Prime Minister in, we've had the Chancellor in. We're quite active with BEIS. We're quite active with the opposition as well. And we've got a really great team that leads on that. Greg leads from the front. He's out with the media all the time. Another pivotal person is Rachel Fletcher. She's the former CEO of Ofwat. She spent a lot of time in Ofgem before she moved there, and she's moved over to us to be Director of Regulation and Economics. And her voice within that space is quite powerful, not just because of who she is, but also because of the move that she made out of the public sector into our organisation. So it comes with increasing impact, but it's a really tough challenge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can I just ask
Of
a quick
course.
follow-up?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people that posit that as oil and gas prices rise, that the case for renewables becomes better. But as you mentioned, the pace of renewable energy development isn't really keeping pace to what it should be, and current policies don't keep up. I'm wondering if there's something. Oh my gosh, I totally lost my train. No, so the two things go off again about if regulation isn't quite keeping up to where it should be, but oil and gas prices are rising. Sort of what trajectory do you see that as going on? Do you think that with current innovations, current business models, that we can get to where we need to be, or do you think we're still in a bit of a deadlock, barring some sort of innovation?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a bit of a deadlock for probably well into the latter half of this year, and we're not moving fast enough. But I believe, and we believe as an organisation, that when policy doesn't move, and this is not just in generation, this is in retail, this is in the tech side of things as well. When policy doesn't move, don't wait for policy to move. Go and show what's possible, and do so at speed. So that's why the heat pump centre has been established, because policy is not helpful for that, but we've got money to invest in that, and that's important to us right now. And that's why we're doing a lot around community generation as well. So it's not moving quick enough, but we're also not going to wait for it to move at the same time. What does that mean for our competitors? I don't know. That's really hard to predict, particularly those that are in the midst of transition.
So your sister company, Octopus Energy, are you able to buy energy directly from that company, or does it have to go via the wholesale market where you then have to pay the marginal cost of gas and pay a lot for it?
Yeah, we're not allowed to buy directly from them.
So you have the same. So you don't have an advantage because you produce renewable energy that doesn't reduce your reliance on electricity at the price of gas.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So why do you think Octopus will crash the way other companies did? So you have the same reliance, you have to buy at the same price electricity, just that you were buying energy more ahead of time, so you were more hedged. Is that why it didn't hit you the same way in other companies?
Yeah, 100%. We were hedging a lot more far in advance than others. Bulb's strategy, for instance, it was quarterly. That's not a recipe for success. But also the other element to why we a more sustainable business model, not risk-free, absolutely, right? But it's because we're not just reliant on the retail business, right? We built the tech that we supply to our competitors, and that's a huge revenue generator for us as well. Yeah. Cool. All right. So operations in the rest of the industry, in many cases, and even across other industries that look after customers, we see that functions such as customer onboarding, customer service, industry operations, billing, payments, credit, etc. They're centralized, and teams exist with walls and rules and barriers around them between the customer and them, and between them and other departments as well. And then normally it's safeguarded by a complaints team, a complaints department, and it is normally very quite distinct. And what that means for, sorry, not distinct, disparate. What that means for a customer is when they've got a problem, they'll call up and they'll speak to either somebody in the complaints team or a customer service team who will be able to handle 20-30% of the issues that they have, because they don't have access to a different system, or they're locked out of that area of the same system, or they're just simply unable and trained to be able to solve that problem. So that means the customer is then passed to another department and that can help solve their problem. It means they have to wait, they have to re-explain the problem, and oftentimes along that journey, be it by email, be it by phone, they get lost and they fall through the cracks. You'll probably have experienced this at some point as a customer, not just in energy, but in other organizations as well. And that's because those organizations are set to serve their functions. They're not built to serve the customer and really look at the customer journey. So, yeah, they're siloed, they're all separated, and people that work here rarely have these skills or insights, and vice versa. So it doesn't work, and we see that through levels of service that are offered in other organizations. This is what we've done. So we've put all of that back in the one pot, and we've split it up to look after the customer. So instead of the customer being one of 3.1 million, they're one of 30 to 70,000. And that 30 to 70,000 is managed by a dedicated team of energy specialists who are decent with them on the phone. They're good at customer service, but they also understand how to solve a smart meter issue. They understand how to fix a bill. They understand how to solve a complaint. They understand how to get a customer on a smart tariff, so on and so forth. And they're autonomous. So the way that this team acts is absolutely not a replication of that one. They're given a lot of independence to create their own way of doing things, and to have an abundance of freedom across that as well. The model has initially grown from those 6 teams back in 2017 to 50 plus teams in the UK. And that growth has happened as a result of the retail growth. But that is a sense of the model. But how does it grow? Successful teams are ones that look after the customer the best. They're given the opportunity to double their customer base, double the size of their team through hiring and training, and then to split, which allows them to create a new team and give people new opportunities across that as well. And we've gone from 1 or 2 teams splitting to today having upwards of 50 teams. And one of the challenges that we have right now, I touched on Avro customers, right? We've got around 580,000 who are sitting outside of this model. We're moving the model around to be able to move those customers in and spread them across those teams as well. But we're resourcing for that at the moment. And this is the model that we're doing in Australia with Origin, in Japan with Tokyo Gas, and globally as well. So the other element to all of this, the thing that makes it work is our culture, and one that is truly focused on our people who are given the space and the freedom to solve problems in the way that they see fit, but also being highly accountable for the results that they deliver as well. There's a big focus on leading as leaders with context as opposed to control. So instead of applying rules and strict guidance around how we give our teams freedom, we lead with context and give them a sense as to what the priorities are, but allowing them to go and solve the problems. And I'm talking about this with regard to operations, because operations is the one that has established this culture the best, and that now aids the tech team to evolve to a culture like this, that now aids our marketing team, our finance team, our generation team as well, since they've come over to us. And it is one that tries to remove as many of the barriers that get in the way of people as well. The other element to it that we have is that we don't have a centralized HR department, because we've done a lot of research into organizations over the last number of years, and ones that have a centralized HR department, in our opinion, don't create the space for people to truly succeed. And they also remove levels of accountability from leaders to truly look after and solve the challenges that their team may have. So HR exists across the spectrum, but it is not a dumping ground for people problems. Instead, it is a space that enables leaders to solve problems for their team members as well. And what this has done means that we've got the lowest level of attrition across the entire industry. It means that we are in the top 50 places to work in the UK, according to Glassdoor, and it means that on Office Vibe, which is our engagement platform that we engage our staff with, we've got really high scores as well. So culture is a really important element to making that all possible. Here's some brands that have something in common. Does anyone know what that is, or would anyone like to offer what they have in common?
Tech software.
Yeah. Tech software, absolutely.
Zero budgets.
Sorry?
Net zero budgets.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I work with Octopus Energy.
Sorry?
I work with Octopus Energy.
You're right. Never thought about that. That's not what I'm getting at, but yes, you're right. Yeah. I'm going to take that one there. They've been organizations that have truly transformed the industry in which they operate, and have done so in different ways. Most of them have done so really, really positively. It hasn't been all positive. And for us, we see ourselves as competing in terms of our impact with them in the industries that they've made that impact to. So each of them, for different reasons, have transformed their industry. And for us, it's the energy market on a global scale that we've got the ambition to do at the speed, at the pace, at the impact, as positively as possible that they've done. And we want to do it globally. And that's why, over the last 2 years, we've now gone from being active in just the UK to 12 countries. And over the course of the rest of the year, we'll probably be active in 5 or 6 more as well. So that is it. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
You're a private company.
Yes.
I assume that's because you don't need money. I don't know if you've got enough pension funds or whatever. As like a company that does good, that engages with the community, are there any plans to like bring in a way that people can get involved in like shares, or like do you reward your employees with like a fraction of the company to like encourage growth?
Yeah. So yes, we're a private company. We've no plans to go public. Maybe we will someday, but absolutely, it's not in our short or medium term future, for a number of reasons. Everybody that joins the Octopus Energy group becomes a shareholder, and with each investment round. So last year we had Generation Fund and the Canadian Pension Plan and Tokyo Gas all invest. So with each round, we create more equity for the team, so that we've got 2,300 people today, and we've got enough equity to give those extra 1,000, extra 1,500 as they join over the year plus ahead. But also with each round of investment, it has given our team an opportunity to sell 5, 10, 15% of the shares that they hold, and therefore go on and be able to, in many cases, buy homes and do what people do with money, and sharing the success of what we've done. In terms of allowing communities or the wider public to invest, we don't currently have plans for that. Would we wait to go public for that to happen? I don't know. Maybe. Or we might get some better ideas and find ways to do that before that happens. Good question. I don't know. Yes.
I might have missed this bit because I was outside on some pizza, but you seem like with the global growth, you kind of, rather than focusing on one country, you've kind of spread out on lots of different ones. Is there a reason for that?
Because we've got money and we're impatient, and we're very ambitious and we stretch ourselves, right? You've seen the scale of the retail growth in terms of customers. That was really difficult. Like Avro, it's a huge toll to go in and work with administrators who don't care in many cases about the customer, who don't care in many cases about the team that are there, and who don't make it easy for us to migrate those customers. So there's a great toll that comes with each jump in inorganic acquisition in particular. But if we look globally, we've got a great depth of talent that has joined the organization in the UK, that has grown up and that knows our culture and our operation very well, and they're ready now to go globally. So I've got 3 of the French team who we acquired at Plume Energy a month ago, maybe. They're coming to the UK next week. I've got them time with all of our ops teams so that they understand and immerse that, and then our team will go over there. Many of them will probably go for a year or 2 to help them transform. In Texas, some of the team that I hired in Leicester a few years ago, they're out there, they're working to transform that, and we've got more people ready to go to other countries. One of the biggest barriers we do have is language competency. What I'm working on right now is bringing in talent that can speak more than English. And that's a challenge. Yes.
It's kind of leads on from that.
Yeah.
There are any plans to go into emerging markets like India or
Yeah.
like that and sort of shape how they markets work?
Yeah, absolutely. It would be like if we're trying to truly make an impact, you cannot just do so in the developed world. We've signed a partnership with an organization in India called Starlight Energy. It's less about the retail side of things and more about generation and demand side response. I'm not close to it. I don't know what we're doing, but I expect that there's other developing countries that we're engaging with as well. We can't not. Yeah.
I was wondering if you could talk a bit more about the other sort of parts of Octopus Group in the ecosystem that you've laid out.
Yeah. So obviously it all started with the retail business, and then we built Kraken alongside that. So tech became a big entity, and we're trying to get more and more talent into that business quicker. It's really difficult at the moment. Then OEV kind of sprung out, so it's our electric vehicle business. With that, we formed a number of tariffs that would be helpful to EV drivers. Octopus Go being the big one, where you get 5 pence a kilowatt hour energy between 12 and 4 a.m., which means that powering your car is really, really cheap. But they're now becoming a one-stop shop for all of the different things that you need to have an electric vehicle. So we have financing options for the rental and purchase of pretty much every EV model that's on the market at the moment. And we're doing a salary sacrifice scheme with businesses across the country. We're moving quite quickly on that, and delivery of EVs, it can't come quick enough. And one of my colleagues, she came over from Tesla. She used to run operations for the UK, and she spoke about like the chaos that came with Tesla deliveries into ports across the country, and how they just weren't able to move quick enough. We're seeing the same thing with all models, and we're doing it within OEV. They're doing a lot with chargers and smart chargers. Another element that has sprung up is Octopus Energy Services. So those are engineers who go out and manage meters, install smart meters. Again, they'll take over the heat pump side of things and other products, and that is direct to consumer. Another part of the business is generation. Since they came over from our parent company, the Octopus Group, which is a financial institution. They've got a very different way of doing things. So we're bringing them in and bringing them closer to what they do. But the challenge that exists is we can't buy directly from them. So we in some respects, some of our team has to stay very separate and away from those. Hydrogen is another part of the business that we are working on. We're fighting the gas lobby because we don't believe that hydrogen is a solution for domestic homes, but we do believe that hydrogen is a solution to power industrial transport, aviation as a possibility as well, and we're working on rolling out that infrastructure and making it accessible. And those are all the ones that, to my recollection right now, are publicly out there. Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Time for one more question.
Anyone?
I thought that's not exactly related to energy, but the business model. So I think last year the CEO of Octopus said in the BBC News interview that they don't have an HR department. I'm just wondering if that's part of like the decentralized employment model of their own kind of benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. The headline misinterpreted the intention of what he meant to say. It didn't misinterpret what he said. You have to manage Greg sometimes. But yes, our model is all about decentralization and empowering not just leaders but people to be able to do what they deem as necessary to solve problems and to create a happy environment. And with that, the function of HR in terms of dealing with people challenges or issues, etc., that shouldn't exist in an entity that is detached from people who know how to do the job, etc. So we've created a structure whereby all of our leaders are accountable to our people, and you've got access to a leader of your choice if you've got a problem, if you've got a challenge that, or if you've got something that is not working for you at that time. And I think it works. It's an imperfect model, and it doesn't work for everybody. And our organization also doesn't work for everybody. Some people who like a lot of structure don't do very well in our organization. But it's the decentralization means that leaders are much more accountable, and they're also close to what's going on, and they're not detached from it. So yeah, that's how the BBC would, if we had controlled the narrative, we would have reported it.
All right, thank you. Let's have another round of applause. Thank you, James, for such a very engaging insider view of Octopus Energy, and thanks everyone for coming in such a windy day. Feel free to help yourself with some pizza, and hopefully we can see you next week. Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you.